I'm Jerry Purvis for StarHerald.com, and welcome to another edition of Table Talk. Our guest today is Steve Morgheim from the group Skipper's Cupboard. Just recently they celebrated their 10th anniversary. So, Steve, welcome to our edition of Table Talk today.
Jerry, thank you for having us. I'd like to mention Becky too. Becky's my partner. We formed this together, and so she's kind of the brains, and I'm the strong back.
Mm-hmm. All right. First of all, tell us about your history, how this got started, and what you do.
Well, we started this in 2009. Part of it was Becky's background of just seeing her own family struggle to feed their pet. And then my motivation was coming across a lady that elderly, could not get any help with any of her agencies. So she was about ready to lose her pet, and that just stunned me. I'd never even thought about that. So that kind of motivated us to start Skipper's Cupboard. And people told us we were crazy, there was no need. And so here we are, we're starting our 11th year and going strong.
Okay, when you first launched 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, how did your first book, your illustrated book, how did that tie in with your launch?
Well, the first, I got to go back even before that. We adopted a little beagle that was about to be euthanized, and we called her Snickers. And we still got a picture of her in our van. And so we cast Snickers as the star of a soapbox race up at the monument. And she got all the animals together, and they had a summer celebration. And it was a way for us to historically acknowledge the soapbox derby races that had gone up there. And so we wrote the book, and that helped promote our name and helped more animals. And then we had a second edition of the book we published just last year, and been well received. And it's just been such a tie-in. You start something, it's amazing for anybody that's out there. If you start something good, you don't know what the next phone call is going to bring you. It'll bring you good stuff.
All right, so basically your services are what?
Well, people who own pets, well, any of us, can have shocks. Usually it's a financial shock. It could be a family structure shock. And by that I mean it could be cancer, it could be a car accident, a hospital bill, spousal abuse, family moving back in. There's just so many shocks that can happen. And usually those financial shocks reverberate to everybody, and one of them can be the pet, the animal. And then people have to make decisions. Do I buy medicine? Do I buy food? Do I buy pet food? And do I give our pet up, or do I take them out in the country and abandon them, which can happen? So what we do is we deliver food to such situations and keep the pet with the family till they get on their feet, and that takes a burden off the shelter, and it takes burden off the family. And we also then, by the donations we get, we recycle food that might be just thrown in the garbage.
Right. So are you seeing an increase in the number of requests for assistance recently?
Well, we started out the first week that the corona lockdown happened. Boy, our calls skyrocketed. And we've seen an increase. In fact, this week just alone, we've helped a mother with two daughters that are living in a car, lost their home. They got a little dog, and petting that little dog kind of is helping keep them together, but they don't know where to go because they're lost. They can't get any help. So we're seeing some real bleak situations like that. We just finished the month with 112 deliveries. I did about 3,700 pounds, which is a record month. And so we're getting, as we always have, we get calls from our service area, which is from Kimball to Rushville to Ogallala to Fort Laramie. And so we've seen even a broader pattern now of requests.
Right. Okay. And in addition to providing animal food, you've expanded a little bit into building animal shelters. So can you tell me a little about that program you have going?
Yeah, about 5 years ago, Becky was getting calls from folks in the public that were very concerned. It was a very, very cold month, and animals were being left in the cold. And obviously, people, just like when they're left in the heat, call and are concerned. So she said, "Well, let's see if we can get some shelters for these dogs." And so then we tied that in with working with youngsters to get them hands-on experience, to teach them about animal care, and to become kind of a generational agent for change, to get people from thinking an animal's a commodity and a property to, hey, it's part of the family. So we started building dog houses out of scrap and donated wood. We're going on our 5th year. October we'll be working with students from Educational Service 13 and building dog houses, cat houses, and this month Becky put out a call on Facebook to try to get ahead of the cold weather because it's coming even though it doesn't feel like it. And we made 8 shelter deliveries this month. And so that's been a nice thing to do too.
Okay, tell us a little about your new kind of workshop where you're building these shelters, storing the materials, things like that.
Well, we have been so blessed by a fund that has provided us with money to buy our very beautiful van and increase our ability. And in that same fund helped us purchase a building over in Gearing. It's a 5-bay metal building. One bay we use for dog food, one for shelters, one is a workshop, one for wood that we store, and then one just kind of miscellaneous. And so that has been just a wonderful addition to be able to store larger deliveries of food and to have space to work. And this summer we've been very, very busy there with signage and privacy fence and putting chain link fence away. We even get donations of that and siding. We never know what's going to be offered, and we usually don't say no because somehow down the road, might be 3 years, we'll go, man, I'm glad we took that.
Okay, you had mentioned that you work with the kids through Educational Service Unit 13 on building the animal shelters. What are some of the events you're doing in the schools to increase awareness about animals?
Well, you know, one of the things that's been so wonderful, Kirk Cookshausen down at Mitchell Elementary has had us there, I think for 5 years now, doing an event called Puppy Love. And Puppy Love is a creative writing and creative art event where we get K through 6 involved in animal care. We show them a video and then show them our houses and then show them a lot of nice plush dogs that we give away for what the faculty thinks are the most worthy entries. And that's been one we're looking forward to doing this year. Of course, we got ESL. And then we're doing our best to get into youth groups and talk about animal care. And we have one youth group, and they donate every year. They take in a donation and they give it to skippers. And then we also have a 4-H group that's having tremendous success down in Bridgeport, getting revitalized, and we're talking to them to begin to include them in the building and the care, and even having a way it's for Girl Scouts, a way for them to get merit badges. So we're pleased about that.
Okay. Last year for your 10th anniversary, you had, to help celebrate that, you had an animal art auction. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we had 40 ceramic, if you will, dogs made. And then we recruited and asked for local artists, and my goodness, some of them came from McCook, North Platte, and Torrington, and they painted these beautiful, beautiful dogs freely, gave their time freely. And then we, thanks to Lisa Weborg and Weborg 21, we had 2 receptions and then a big auction. And like we were talking about, I just can't believe that'll be a year in September 10th. The public and the community was so supportive. We raised a lot of money, and we made a lot of contacts, and I think we elevated the image of what we do to a different level. And just like yesterday, we talking to one of our artists and said, hey, we still remember that dog you did with Nebraska Proud because it was right on the heels of the big flood. And so it seems like between fires and floods and viruses and everything, Nebraska strong.
Okay. What's one of the stories that you'll always remember from the service you offer?
I think it's just every day seeing people we've helped. I was at Mini Mart 2 days ago, and I'm checking my email, and I hear this little voice say, "Thank you." And I couldn't figure what that was about. And I looked out of the truck, and here's a little girl with her mom, and her mom said, "You helped us a couple years ago, and my daughter just wanted to say thank you." And we just have those moments continuously, and so it's kind of general. And if we edit this, I'm trying to think of one in specific, but there's so many.
Okay. So how can the public support your work?
Well, we always need donations of dog food, cat food, that's the commodity, dry, wet. Of course, we can always use cash. We are a 501c3 public charity recognized by the IRS, so every donation is tax deductible. Primarily, we're supported by individuals, and we get no agency support. So we have fundraisers we encourage people to come to whenever they see us doing one. Aaron's Rental did a big fundraiser for us 2 months ago and raised about 1,200 pounds of food. But the way people can get a hold of us is through our Facebook page, and Becky Hale, or come to our website, skipperscupboard.com, or call us at 308-672-5015 and let us know. We've had memorials for people who have passed away that were pet lovers, and their memorial has been to us. We have animals that it seems like once a week people call and say, "Hey, I lost our pet. We've got food and shelter and blankets and things left, and we'd like to see that they go to a good home, and we'll pick them up." And so if they've got people at work that are looking for a fundraiser or some community outreach, as a company or as a church or as an organization, they could band together and have a food drive for us too.
Okay. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, it's our great pleasure.
We've been talking with Steve Morgheim of Skipper's Cupboard, and thank you for joining us. I'm Jerry Purvis on another edition of Table Talk.